Hi everyone, it's Suzanne. Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to share with you all of the middle grade books that I have read recently. And to be perfectly transparent, the majority of these were for middle grade March, which was a readathon that happened in March, all about middle grade. However, I'm a bit behind in that video. So there you go. If you were to watch my to be read video, I'll link it below, you would see that I read most of the books on there, but not all. And I added a couple extra middle grade that I came across along the way. I'm going to start off with my least favorite, and I like them all. They were all great books, but I'm going to start off with my lowest rating, right up to my highest rating, my favorite book of them all. Okay, the first book I want to mention is Ginger Pie. This is an old classic. Their first book is Ginger Pie, and this is by Eleanor Estes. This is an oldie but a goodie, and this was about a little boy and a sister, and they bought a dog called Ginger Pie, and the dog goes missing. And this one I found, we listened to this in audio. When I say we, I listened to it with my 7-year-old daughter. I did end up finishing this on my own because it didn't hold her attention that well throughout until the end of the book, but I did enjoy it. One of the things I loved about this book was how the author really gave us a glimpse into how children think, and I appreciated that. They really interpreted, the meaning behind basically everything that they were doing in their life, and I thought that was quite interesting. And I did find it a little bit slow as well. The pacing of this is a bit different than what I think modern day books are like. And we gave this a 3.5. There's actually 2 books in this little duology, and the Pies, that's what the series is called. So we do have the next one, which I think is Pinkie Pie or Pink Pie. Well, Pinkie Pie makes more sense. That's also a little pony. I don't have that information in front of me. I'm not even sure I'm going to read it after this one. We'll see. Another book that is a bit older, and really this one's quite famous, and this is called From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, and this is by E.L. Konigsberg, and this is about 2 little children that run away from home. This is about 2 children who run away from Connecticut, and they go to the Museum of Art, and this initially started out because a little girl wanted to teach her parents a lesson. And they spent a week in the museum. I did find this adorable. It was a really fast read, obviously. And I loved the idea of 2 kids running away and having an adventure inside a museum. And you could tell that they were obviously from a well-to-do family. I rated this about 3.5, 4. I'm glad I read it. I have been wanting to read it for a while, and it was cute. The next 2 books are a duology from the Shakespeare Mysteries, and this is by Darren R. Hicks. The first book was The Secrets of Shakespeare's Grave, and I rated this a 3 out of 5. While I found the read really enjoyable, what I wasn't fond of was how little they actually talked about Shakespeare. It's like the story happened, and then they mentioned that they were looking for Shakespeare's grave, but there really wasn't a lot about Shakespeare. I was hoping there was more of that in the book. The reason I found these books was because I was participating in Shakespeare Week with my daughter, and I wanted to find a fictional book that talked about Shakespeare or one of the plays in an easy to read format. And this is a middle grade series, and it did do that. But like I said, the first one didn't talk a lot about Shakespeare. I did enjoy it enough that I was curious, because there were a couple hooks. So it is a mystery, and I did find the hook really good. So once I was finished, I knew there was enough there that I wanted to read the second middle grade book. And I'm really happy that I did, because Tower of the 5 Orders was amazing. I gave this one a 4 out of 5, or did I give it a 5 out of 5? Yes. Oh, I compromised. That's why I was getting confused. I gave it a 4.5. I really liked this book, and what I really liked was they had a huge amount of information about Shakespeare and his life and Marlowe, and I found that really intriguing. I learned some things about Shakespeare's history as well as Marlowe's that I didn't know about, so now I want to do more research on Marlowe. I found it extremely enjoyable. The mystery was fantastic. I was really pleased with this. I would recommend it if you are a Shakespeare fan or would just like to take a look at Shakespeare from a different angle. If you like mystery books, you might enjoy this series. It was finished with this one. Definitely get them out at the same time. But like I said, don't expect a lot of information about Shakespeare in the first one. It's more an introduction to the kids in the family that go about trying to solve the mysteries. And yeah, it was really good. I recommend it. The next 3 books I'm going to show you were all rated 4 out of 5. And to continue with the Shakespeare theme, I read Midsummer's Mayhem, and this is by Rajani La Roca. This book was based on A Midsummer Night's Dream, and for me, it was perfect timing. We had just read that play by Shakespeare, an abridged child's version for Shakespeare Week, so I loved this book. It was a modern middle grade retelling of A Midsummer Night's Dream, and I loved the fact that the main character, the little girl, was a baker, and she really got into recipes and baking, and yeah, it just felt so good. Like it was a feel good. I love that she came from a big family. That's a plus for me. So she had brothers, sisters, and they knew the neighbors, all that good small town feel that I love as well. I'm so happy that I discovered this, and yes, I would love to add this to our personal library. Another 4-star read was The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane, and this was about Emmy, a little girl whose mom, her father had passed away, and her mother is very involved with her career as a parenting guru. I just think it's funnier. She's a parenting guru, and she sends her daughter off to a boarding school because she's going to do some reality television to save other families. And the little girl discovers some medallions of her father's, and it becomes a mystery that she solves in Black Hollow, but then it presents even more mysteries. And she has decided at the end of the school year to go back the following year. So the series does continue. I'm definitely reading the second one. And this is a mystery. Wow, that's 2 mysteries. I don't usually read those, but a couple of the booktubers I follow recommend a lot of mysteries, it seems. And I'm glad because I really enjoyed this one. I love the feeling of camaraderie with her friends, that she met boy and girl that became a really tight-knit group at the school, and I always love when that happens, and I look forward to the second one. The next 4-star read is called The Brave, and this was by James Bird, and this was the group read for middle grade March. This was about James, who couldn't help but count all the words as people spoke, and he would have to say it out loud, and his dad has kind of had enough. He gets expelled from his final school, and they suggest that he goes somewhere else, which keeps happening. The same thing just happens over and over. So his father sends him to live with his mom, and she lives on an Ojibwe reserve. And it's about him moving there, and he meets a little girl next door who believes that she's turning into a butterfly. It's about his healing journey, getting involved with the girl next door and falling and meeting his mom and his grandmother. And this is definitely a feel-good. I loved this book. And of course, be prepared to cry. Be prepared to cry. It is a tearjerker. Kind of felt that was probably going to happen as I went into this book. Anyway, it's a really great read. Okay, the next book is The Girl Who Drank the Moon, and I gave it 4.25. Four seemed too low, but I couldn't go much higher. I love it when those rating happens. I'd love to know below if you rate books, if you ever get really stuck on kind of what rating to give it. That's when I put in things like 0.25. Anyway, I really love this book. My daughter, who is 7, like I said, also listened to this on audio with me. So this was an audio book, which I do recommend. I personally love middle grade audiobooks. The production value on those are amazing. And this is by Kelly Barnhill. Well, we'll start off. There's a town, proletariats, who end up sacrificing 1 baby a year to the witch in the woods. And this year, the little girl was taken to the woods, and what the witch was actually doing was taking all the babies into the town on the other side of the woods and finding homes for them. And she always gave them a drink of starlight to sustain them while she was traveling with them to the new town. And in this case, she gave Luna, the little girl, moonlight by mistake. And she ended up having to keep the little girl because she was going to become a magic. and it's a story of that town dealing with what's going on with the new babies. And I found this really, it is a fantasy book and really magical. Both my daughter and I enjoyed this book immensely. And it was also one that I found it was okay to start, listen to it a little bit, and then come back to it like a couple days later. So it took us a good couple of weeks to get through this book. And sometimes that ends up feeling a little too dragged out. But in this case, it was perfect. And yeah, like I said, it felt very magical. I'm really glad that we own this copy, because I can see us reading it again. The final books I'm going to show you are 5-star reads. Now, this was one. This is called Roald Dowd, The Magic Finger. My daughter loves Roald Dowd. We've been trying to read one a month for our family reads. So for March, because I knew we were doing so many middle grade books, I asked her to pick basically the smallest. I literally said that. So this was the smallest book. And we have back here, we have a whole set of Roald Dahl books. And this, I don't even remember, what was this? Yeah. This was about the magic finger. A little girl, sometimes she gets really upset. She can point at something and produces some sort of magic. In this case, she does it against the neighbors. She doesn't like the fact that they hunt, and she basically turns them all into ducks so they know how it feels. It's a really funny, cute read. Another series that we're reading one a month is the Vanderbeeker Series, and this is by Corinna Young Glasser. And we're caught up to date. So this is the 4th one of the series, and this is Lost and Found. And there's another one coming out this fall. I'm really looking forward to that. I absolutely love the Vanderbeekers. My daughter, thank goodness, loves it as much as I do. And if you're not familiar with the Vanderbeekers, now's the time to get familiar. It's so adorable. This is about a biracial family living in Harlem, New York in a brownstone. And there are 5 children in this family. And there's always something that they're trying to help or figure out in each book. And I absolutely love how close and tight-knit the family is, not only within their own home, but in the brownstone with the other families that live above them and in the community at large. So you have a real feeling of community, and it always feels really good to read this. Next, we have Brown Girl Dreaming, and this is by Jacqueline Woodson. And I had chosen a huge amount of books for Black History Month. This was one of those that I had chosen, and we didn't have a chance to finish it, so I wanted to make sure I did. And boy, am I grateful, because I listened to this on audiobook. The author did read this. Her voice is beautiful. This book is told in verse. This is the first time I ever read a book in verse, and I loved every minute of it. And this is not only her story, but as well other people's stories as well. That's a quote from the author herself. And this is about her growing up and other people in the 60s to 70s. And it was definitely a really great read. Now, the final book that I'm going to mention is one that I was not on my middle grade list, but Amanda at the Curly Reader mentioned it, and I read it. I'm so grateful, because it's a 5 out of 5. And I would say it's one of my favorite books so far this year, and it's just a little middle grade. Now, this is from the library, and I plan on adding this to my collection. And apparently the second book, written by the same author, which is Lisa Klein Ransom, is even better than this, according to a couple of people on BookTube, like Amanda. But I've only read this one, and I absolutely loved it. And this is called Finding Langston, and this is about a little boy whose mother dies, and he moves to Chicago from Alabama. And this book takes place in 1946, and it's referred to as the Great Migration, when a lot of people moved from the South up into Chicago and to the North. Langston doesn't really fit in when he moves to Chicago. He has holes in his shoes. He's still wearing his overalls, and he ends up discovering the library. And he absolutely loves to read. He loves poetry. He loves books. And it's about his journey discovering the library. And when he was in Alabama, he was not allowed to go into the library. The library there was for whites only. And he discovers a wonderful library, discovers Langston Hughes poetry. And I was so amazed to just read a story that explained the difference a library can make in one individual's life. And I love the public library system. I say it totally changed my life. I can't even imagine what it would be like if we didn't have a library. I can't imagine what my life would be like if I didn't have a library. It's been through so many phases in my life that has supported the reading that I needed to do. But to hear it explained this way about a young boy and the impact that the public library had on his life was amazing. I think everybody that loves books will probably love this book. And they should definitely have this, put right out in libraries for sure. And I think everybody should read it, and there would be no question about funding for the library anymore. But this is a wonderful book. Highly, 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 highly recommend this one. Can't wait to have it on my shelf. I know I would read this over and over. That is it. I really enjoyed this. Was my first time participating in Middle Grade March. I enjoyed it immensely. I'll definitely participate next year. That brings us to an end. Thank you for watching. And if you have any middle grade books that you would love to recommend or that you've read lately that you love, please leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more videos.